You know that feeling when you're saving and saving and saving, but your net worth just feels like it's barely budging? Well, you are definitely not alone. Getting off that starting line is financially exhausting. So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what's widely considered the absolute hardest financial milestone you're ever going to face. We're going to use real-world data, some awesome case studies, and insights from the greatest investing minds to figure out exactly why surviving this initial grind is the absolute best thing you can do for your future, and, more importantly, how to actually activate your wealth snowball. Let's get into it.
Okay, to kick things off, we have to talk about the late, great Charlie Munger. He was Warren Buffett's right-hand man at Berkshire Hathaway, and let me tell you, the guy did not sugarcoat things. He famously said, the first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I mean, he just laid it out there. Munger had zero patience for excuses when it came to building wealth, mainly because he knew that the very beginning of your investing journey, it relies entirely on you, your sweat, your discipline, your earned income. It's tough, and he wanted people to just embrace that harsh reality.
He actually doubled down on this, saying, I don't care what you have to do. Find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. And he literally meant whatever it takes, like walking everywhere or only eating with coupons. Now, the point here isn't to glorify punishing yourself with extreme frugality forever. He's just trying to drill home that you have to hit that first major milestone by any means necessary. Because once you do, that is the exact magical threshold where your money finally starts working for you instead of you working for it.
Section 1. 7 years versus 3 years, a real-world case study. So to prove this isn't just out-of-touch billionaire talk, let's look at a pretty fascinating story from the massive right investing community over on Reddit. We've got a user who goes by Playing with Fire 23. They started fresh out of college in 2013 with basically nothing, zero. But they set up automatic monthly contributions. They started small, just $100 a month, and slowly worked it up to $1,000 a month. Now, it took them 7 long, grinding years of just absolute consistency to push that rock up the hill and finally cross their first $100,000. But here is where the math gets absolutely crazy. Once they hit that 100K mark, everything shifted. Sure, they kept putting in their monthly contributions, but their investment returns suddenly kicked into overdrive. It took just 3 years for that exact same investor to double their money and hit $200,000. Literally 3 years to make the second $100,000. They reached nearly 200K by age 35 entirely because the math fundamentally changed in their favor.
Think about that contrast for a second. 0 to 100K took 7 years. 100K to 200K took only 3 years. This perfectly illustrates why the beginning is literally the hardest part of building wealth. Early on, every single dollar you invest comes straight out of your own paycheck. Your investment gains are just too tiny to really notice. But man, once you break that barrier, the timeline to your next milestone just dramatically shrinks.
Section 2. The math behind the snowball. Gravity takes over.
So why does the timeline collapse like that? Well, it boils down to this incredible force of nature called the snowball effect, which is actually a metaphor Charlie Munger loved to use. Picture yourself physically rolling a snowball up a steep hill. It's heavy, it's brutally slow, and it takes absolutely all of your energy just to keep it moving. That's your first 100K. But once you get that snowball to the top of the hill, it gets big enough that gravity just takes over. It rolls downhill, grabbing more and more snow all on its own, growing exponentially faster than you could ever push it yourself. That is exactly what compounding does to your money once your base is big enough.
Let's actually put some real numbers to this using a breakdown from the site 4 Pillar Freedom. Imagine you have a $100,000 portfolio and it's earning a totally reasonable 4% annual dividend yield. That portfolio is now paying you $333 every single month in pure passive income. You are doing absolutely zero work for that money. As the author pointed out, $333 was over half of their rent payment at the time. Your portfolio is suddenly doing the heavy lifting and actually stepping in to pay your real-world bills.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. We've got to address the elephant in the room. Charlie Munger originally gave this first 100K advice way back in the 1990s. So, with all the wild inflation and economic changes we've seen since then, does that specific dollar amount even hold up today as the magic threshold?
Well, if we adjust purely for inflation, Munger's original $100,000 benchmark would actually be closer to about $222,000 in today's money. But hey, don't let that discourage you. You've got to remember that while the economic goalposts have technically shifted, the underlying math of compounding hasn't changed one bit. Honestly, the exact number matters way less than the concept itself. Whether your personal milestone is 100K or 200K, the rule is identical. Eventually, your long-term investment returns will start generating meaningful gains entirely on their own.
Section 3. Avoiding costly rookie mistakes. Lessons from the trenches.
Okay, so if gravity wants to help you build wealth, what usually gets in the way? Well, despite eventually succeeding, our Reddit investor actually owned up to making a ton of early, painful mistakes. They tried day trading with options and futures, always a dangerous game. They admitted to panic selling assets way too early instead of just holding on to them. They also took on these highly risky, over-leveraged trades that ended in nasty losses and created totally avoidable tax headaches like wash sales. Basically, they were trying to hit daily home runs, and it almost derailed their entire journey.
And that brings us to maybe the ultimate lesson you'll hear echoed across the investing community. When you chase the money, you won't make it. View investing as a get-rich-slow scheme. I love that phrasing. Getting rich quick usually involves taking on extreme risks that can completely wipe you out, basically sending your wealth snowball crashing right into a tree. It's patience and holding for the long term that actually builds real, enduring wealth.
Section 4. Winning strategies for beginners. Activating your snowball. So how do we actually do this? What's the proven playbook from people who have actually crossed this finish line? First things first, before you even think about the stock market, you need to build an emergency fund. We're talking 3 to 12 months of living expenses safely parked in a high-yield savings account. Second, if your employer offers a 401k match, you max that out immediately because that is literal free money. Third, open and max out a Roth IRA to lock in tax-free growth forever. The limit is $7,000 for 2025. And finally, automate those monthly contributions. This is known as dollar-cost averaging, just investing a set amount on a strict schedule, totally ignoring what the stock market happens to be doing that day.
Once you've got that rock-solid foundation, what should you actually be buying? The consensus is pretty clear. Keep it simple and keep it boring. Stick to broad market index funds like the S&P 500, which have historically returned around 8 to 10% a year. Seriously, resist the urge to pick individual stocks. Also, if you have access to a health savings account, or HSA, definitely use it. It's got triple tax advantages. And above all else, never, ever panic sell during a market downturn. Remember, you only lock in your losses when you sell at the bottom.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but I need a massive tech salary to pull this off, listen to this. A Papa John's pizza delivery driver in that same community managed to save $150,000 in 8 years, all while working an hourly wage of under $14 an hour. How is that even possible? By keeping their routine expenses incredibly low, avoiding the trap of constantly going out, funneling their cash into high-yield savings and index funds, and just being incredibly stubbornly consistent. It just proves how amazingly accessible this milestone really is if you're willing to strictly control your daily habits. The biggest takeaway from all of this is that hitting that first massive financial milestone is entirely in your hands. It relies on your discipline, not just sheer luck. You really do have to endure that brutal uphill push before gravity finally steps in to help you out. So I want to leave you with a question to think about. Take a hard look at your habits right now. Do these strategies actually align with your current financial goals? And what is one single automated change you can make today to start rolling your own financial snowball? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep pushing that snowball.